Hello everybody and welcome to the August 13th edition of Trips and Traps from up in Saratoga. I'm Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan.
We've got 5 races to bring you in 2 different segments today. We got a couple of turf routes, so we're going to break it down into the first 2 races in the first segment and then the final 3 races in the last segment. So let's get to one of those turf routes, and this was the 4th race from Wednesday. Patio Prado is the name of the horse we're looking at, breaking from the breaking underneath number 8.
Yeah, and I mean, look, this is a fairly obvious trip, and I think a lot of people saw this horse, and this horse is probably a stakes horse. And he's just a horse that threw sort of an inept ride and you know, just a lousy trip. He just didn't win a race that he should have won for fun, and he's going to go on and win stakes in all likelihood, or else there's some really good 2-year-old turf horses around. And you see him here, sort of out in no man's land, push 4 or 5 wide in the first turn, and it's tough with these 2-year-olds because they are kind of green, and he loses position, and he's knocked off his heels, but you got to sort of go into these races with a bit of a game plan, and there was no game plan for poor Patio Prado here.
Yeah, no, it seems like that's happens a lot, especially in these 2-turn turf races. A lot of these horses are running around 2 turns for the first time. They're not used to having to, you know, kind of slow themselves down and be able to make that first turn. So, you know, it might not even be the fault of your own horse. You might get pushed out there by another horse, which was kind of the case here a little bit, but I think you're right. There was no game plan going into the race here with Patio Prado, who's settling in toward the back of the pack in this spot here. A contested pace, but I didn't think they went all that fast. Well, it was 23-2. It just visually doesn't look like they're going all that fast up front.
Right, it is funny, these races. And the other thing about it is, it's not like the race collapsed.
Right.
The horse in front, who was the favorite, he won the race. Nobody really made up any significant ground except for poor Patio Prado, who's like not in the world's worst position here, but you know, just imagine if he hadn't been pushed out 4 wide and he had sort of he had tucked in behind or something, and now the rider, Miguel Mena, is sort of getting him into gear. Okay, he's 3 wide. Now, I understand what he's doing here because he can't swing 5 wide around the horses in front of him, so he's trying to hope that he gets a seam here, and this is not a rider's fault. But what will happen is the field will bunch. He'll be forced to steady behind horses, and when he does that, as you can see there, and he's steadied, he's blocked behind the wall. He went from being a few lengths behind to being about 6 lengths behind, and the leader and eventual winner, of course, has just opened up a virtually insurmountable lead. And all things considered, Patio Prado makes it pretty darn close at the end.
Yeah, what a great run he puts in at the finish here. And, you know, you can debate the fact that you're talking about the top of the stretch. You want to try to save ground around the turn, but you don't want to get trapped in there like Patio Prado did. I think sometimes it's just better to tip 4 or 5 wide and just hope you hope you can gain that momentum back when you straighten out through the stretch. So Patio Prado, definitely a horse who was making his first turf start in this race, by the way, who I think has a bright future in front of him.
He's got a big future. There's no doubt about it. And not that gallop outs are that meaningful, but I think it was about 20 in front of this horse by the time they hit the turn. This is a very nice horse, Patio Prado. A couple people asked us about some other horses in the race. In fact, I think Calipari, the horse who finished fourth, was brought up, and that was the Todd Pletcher horse that was making the 4-wide move in the turn. He was a little wide. I didn't think he did any running.
Yeah, Patio Prado, Patio Prado, clearly the best one in the race there, I thought, moving forward. Let's get on to our second race in this segment, and we're going to take a look at another turf horse that broke from an outside-ish post, and this is Frivolous Buck, who actually breaks from the far outside post in this race here on, I guess this was Saturday?
Yeah, I guess this was Saturday. The days are really rolling into one around Saratoga, and this was not per se a bad trip as you think of a horse having trouble or a horse being that wide, though he was about 3 wide the whole way around the track. This is a situation where I felt that that this horse, Frivolous Buck, had received aggressive rides in his last 2 at Belmont simply because they were races without that much pace. And I thought they were good judgments by Edgar Prado. But I felt going in, and maybe this is me overcompensating for my bad opinion, but this was a horse that earlier in his career had run his better races coming from well off of it. Well, Saratoga, as we've talked about a lot, these 2-turn turf routes, you can come from dead last. You get fair races in a lot of them, and I had hoped that Frivolous Buck would rate in here. Instead, he's sort of in that no man's land of chasing 3 wide, a few lengths off the lead, and for my money, if he would take back and try to make a run from last, probably get one more start at Saratoga, it might be more fruitful.
You might be right. I think in a paceless race, you can send them from an outside post and hope to take advantage of the lack of speed in the race, get them over to the rail, but that didn't happen in this race here with Frivolous Buck, as she continues to, go about 3 wide around the turn here. And, I think you're right. She probably would have been better covered up. I didn't think she had a bad trip at all, per se. I was watching the race over when you were telling me we wanted to do this, and I'm just like, I don't really see what he's talking about. This horse is just sitting there 3 wide. Okay, 3 wide, but still a lot of horses run 3 wide here at Saratoga all the way around the place. But I think you're right. right in terms of tactics, that she might just be better served coming from off the pace here.
Yeah, and there's also a big difference between being lapped on at Belmont around the one turn, a slowish pace, than chasing 3 wide in the 2 turns at Saratoga. I just think it's a completely different dynamic. And in my opinion, this is a horse that just had dynamics sort of against her. And look, maybe she just ran those races and she's a little worn out, but I don't know. I still think the Frivolous Buck is actually pretty good. I'm hoping to get one more chance at Saratoga where we get a little bit of a pace in the race. And it's hard because she had the outside post, and it's a difficult situation for Prado. And he'd been riding her that way, but tactically, if she can draw a little more to the inside and just take her back and get her covered up and take her shot coming from last, I think this is a horse we have a chance to get a decent price on.
I agree. I think that's a horse you're going to have to look just to see, what kind of spot she's into, and see how the race is going to develop and stuff like that. I'd like to see her in a race with a lot of speed and try to back her from off the pace there. Well, that'll do it for the first segment here of Trips and Traps, and we always want to hear your comments at Trips and Traps, so you can send us emails at tripsandtraps@NYRAInc.com. There's the email address at the bottom of the screen there, and we're going to take a quick time out and be back with the next couple of races.